What's going on, everyone? So this is part, I don't know, it's probably in the title, of the Xbox One S water-cooled build. So you can see we got the hole cut out here. It is on a slight angle, which tells me I still need to go a little bit farther on this side so that it'll kind of sit up perfectly level there. I have the top piece completely snapped on just so I can make sure it actually fit all the way. I went ahead and installed, this was a 2-pack, so I have the other one installed on the bottom side of the radiator now. I found some shorter screws that will attach that one to the bottom, which it is now. I found some screws to put the top one on. I went with some brass ones. I don't know why, it's just were the ones that seem to fit. So you can see that's completely attached on there. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pop this top back off and plug both the fans in, and again do a little test. Just turn it on real quick and see what the noise level is going to be like with both fans and also the airflow. And then today we're going to, like I said, finish trimming out this side a little bit so that it'll go upright. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount the pump, at least temporarily, but put a little bit of double-sided tape just to stick it on exactly where we want it, and then we'll use that as a reference point to cut out the section over here for the pump to stick through, as well as a little bit for the fittings and tubing to go in. And then once that's all cut out, then we're ready to paint this, which I'm hoping to get done today. So let's go ahead and take this off and plug in the system. Alright, just got the power supply plugged in for now. We're just going to plug it in, and it should, like when you plug it in, it's going to turn the fan on a little bit before actually powering it on. So we're just going to do this to see what our noise level's like. Okay, let's see if that bottom fan is on. Yep, so bottom and top fan are on, both connected to 12 volts. And I mean, it's completely silent. Can't hear anything at all, which is awesome. Not even sure if the camera will pick that up, but yeah. You see there it says water-cooled Xbox One S, and then it'll go back and forth and show the air temperature in there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, everything seems good there, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. We're going to get to finishing cutting this out so that we can finally paint it. Alright guys, couple things. I keep putting this off, but I did tape this off. I gotta trim that little bit out, which will leave a slight gap on this side, but that's gonna be perfect, so I have to run the cables from the top fan down the side there, which I plan to put either some heat shrink over this exposed part just to hide it better. But anyway, I also wanted to get the pump lined up to exactly where I want it. That way I can at least start to mark that off as well, so I don't have to keep going in and out. I can at least start to cut that part out. But anyway, I was checking some things out, and one, totally unrelated, I was using this controller on my Xbox One, and I was mentioned that A button just seems a little bit off, and you do have to kind of push it a little bit harder, it seems, than you should have to, so I'm probably going to put the original button back on that one, which is just the white one, or whatever, or maybe it's black, with the green. But anyway, yeah, I'll probably put that back in and make sure that that's what the issue is. Otherwise, I have two of my own controllers, and I'm going to make sure it's a nice working controller when it goes with it. Also, the triggers just seemed a little odd. I don't know if it's that they're not set in there right. I don't know. I might just put the black ones in there and then the A button in, and I mean, it's still going to have this cool shell. Anyway, I keep getting sidetracked, but one thing I also wanted to make sure was the temperature display. I think this would be a really tight fit up front. I'm not sure if I can get it to where it'll look real nice without having to cut into this edge here. So, quick story here. This is our budget water-cooled Xbox One S. And I do plan on going back and re-water cooling my personal one. And I figured it'd be cool to kind of do a non-budget or budgetless build on that one down the road. I did kind of order some parts for it already, but I mean, that's going to be, we're going to do this one, we're going to finish the eyeball one. We've got a couple other projects, we're going to do that other PSP, and then, yeah, anyway, down the road we'll do that one. But my idea for this one was to invert it compared to what I had before, which is before everything was white, right? It had the white radiator, fan, reservoir, and then red fluid in it. I want to invert it and paint it all red and use red radiator, reservoir, and then use like white fluid in it. So part of that was I mentioned two of my favorite sites are closing down, Performance PCs and Frozen CPU, and they are still open. They do still have some stuff, but they're really trying to clear out the rest of their things. And one thing that they did have in stock still was a white temperature display with a red backlight. And it said they still had like 100 of them. And I ordered one just to make, see how it looked like and everything. And I was going to save it for that build, but I ended up putting it in that R2-D2 Xbox Slim. And because I assumed I could just order a few more, and they are all gone. So I'm really bummed about that. The only temperature displays you can find that are like this, which is just a 5 volt, and then it either has this plug or it just has a flat sensor, is these blue backlit ones that are radial style. Those are the only ones I could find anywhere. Obviously, there's different kinds of temperature displays, but this is what we need for these kind of systems. The other ones are meant to plug into your PC motherboard and have all kinds of other options and stuff. But because of that, I figured if I still want a temperature display on this one, I will either hook it up to a button like I did on the PS3 so it's just off, because obviously the blue light's not really going to match all the red. But then I thought, or I can also, I mean, I can still put the button on it, but I'll probably mount it on the side of the system so you're not actually seeing it, but you can still look at the side and check the temperature, see how it's doing. Now I think that's what I'm going to do here. So I would have to cut out a little bit of this metal frame, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark off on the side here where I can have it, inset flush into the side of the system. I think I'm gonna do that to this system as well. Like I said, I can't put it on the front because we got our disk drive and then the power board across the whole front here. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put it on the side. I think that'll be nice and clean, kind of out of the way, but you can still check the temperature there. Plus, it will also ensure that all of our incoming air here isn't going to try to escape out the side too much. So kind of block some of that from happening and hopefully force it more through the back. So I just wanted to say that before we keep going any further. And yes, I just farted. Alright, so we got this trimmed out good enough. So now this stays level. There's a little bit of gap on this side so we can run our wire down. And I'm not really worried about that small of a gap. We're just going to smooth this out. We're not going to worry about trim or anything. I think it's just going to look fine, especially since this is perforated, which actually helps out a lot, especially on the side, with lining up where I need to cut out. I went ahead and held our temperature display up approximately to where I needed it, put some tape around, cut it out. I went back and it's good this way. It needs to be a little bit wider this way, so we're going to trim this little bit out, and then our temperature display will be good. Now it is thin, but I just don't know if it's that thin. We'll probably have to trim a little bit of this metal casing out, which is no big deal, just to make sure that this will sit all the way flush inside that recessed part there. And yeah, it's thin enough to where it shouldn't, our fan and radiator is about, I don't know, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch behind this metal frame, so there's plenty of room there. And when we're putting this together, we'll basically feed this out through the hole in the side of the case, so it'll just be sticking out with its wires like that, and then we'll put the top case on and then just feed the wires back in until we can put our temperature display and they're nice and snug. Now the thing with these temperature displays are these little pegs that stick out on the sides, so we'll just have to bring this outside and just smooth out these a little bit around the four sides there. I do leave these clips on the side because that will help kind of clip this in place and hold it nice and snug. Yeah, so I already marked out the little bit more I got to cut out there. Now before I go back outside, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to set our pump exactly where I need it, and then we're going to just actually use a tape measure this time instead of just kind of eyeballing it. And we're going to mark out exactly how far away the pump is from our radiator. Okay, and we're going to then measure the width, how much we need to cut out this way, lengthwise, including the reservoir. And then we'll basically cut out the shape of the pump right here. And then we're going to cut that whole part, well, measure it from here, from our, where we've already cut out our radiator. And then make the markings where I need to cut that. And then it should fit over it nicely. It might fit over the top of this one. I'm not sure how high this one sticks up. It's hard to tell. However, we will obviously need to cut out another little section here where this one sticks out and the tube goes down. But first we're just going to cut out the shape of the pump. I'm going to mark that off real quick. And then, yeah, that'll probably be, honestly, the end of this video. I promise my plan is to go 8 parts on this. I know this should be part 7. I'm going to have this all cut out. And then in between making part 8, I'm going to just use Goof Off and clean all this up and sand it, and part 8 will just be painting this top piece. Like I said, we're already going to use this one that I painted, which I used as kind of a test panel to do. It's a little dusty, and that's just hair right now. But we're going to clean this one up, and this is what I did the original raindrop effect on. And it already kind of has that bluish, purple, green color shift to it. And then this top one will have more of a reddish blue color shift to it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mark this off. I'll show me cutting that part out. And then, yeah, part 8 will be painting this and just final assembly. So let's go ahead and mark this off. Alright guys, we got this cut out. And what's nice about doing the monitors is I don't have to go back and sand it to be perfect, because this little lip around the top is going to end up covering that edge. See, we've got that fitting in there real nice. Like I said, those little clips on the ends will kind of help hold it in place, but we will have to go back and just kind of smooth out these little notches here that kind of stick out on the corners, just because those go all the way out to that edge. And I basically just take the cutting wheel and go right along here and just go down a little bit, all 4 corners. It'll just take a second. Otherwise, yeah, that's going to be in the side there. And then obviously, I mean, this will be painted, so it'll kind of blend in a little bit nicer. And then as far as the top, our radiator one is done. We just got to go back and kind of hand sand it a little bit to smooth it. And then I've got this one almost there, as you can see. Got kind of a, I don't know what shape that is, cut out. But basically, we're going right up. We're using this where that screw goes in the middle as a reference point. That's the very bottom. I put a little tape on either side so I know exactly where I'm putting this pump. It's going to line up with the edge of this plastic. And then there's actually a little line underneath that little guy there. So that's perfect where that's going to line up, so that this lines up with that hose. This one will line up more or less with that one. It'll be on a slight angle, which is fine. And this will line up with that side of the tape. And I use that as a reference point to initially cut this out. And I did the first cut, and now I'm going back and I'm going to have to sand it just a little bit bigger around here to fit around this. And then we'll have to see exactly what I want to do with this cutout. I'll have to see exactly how far this reservoir is going to stick out. I might want to just cut it so that it, kind of snugs up underneath on both sides. And in order for that to work, I'll have to cut a little more out the front. That way we'll install it with the reservoir off, because this top piece kind of has to go on like this. There's little metal brackets here that it'll kind of slide, and then it kind of swings over the top, which is why I cut a little bit more out of this backside as well, so that it'll kind of swing over the top of the radiator. It'll kind of do the same with this one, where it'll swing over the top. And this one has fins right here. As you can see, I have it so that screw slightly off there, just a hair. Like I said, I don't want to have to cut off where that screw goes in. It'll basically slide right in between those two fins there, and then it kind of rests up against this peg just like that. And so yeah, that should fit pretty nicely. But as I was saying, it should hopefully swing over, and then I might be able to get the reservoir and screw that on afterwards, and then this tube will be sticking through a little hole right here, and then we'll just be able to plug that right in. So that should fit pretty nicely. I did put this fan kind of grill cover over this. I'll have to test out and see if you can still read the wording fine. It's really only there so that the fins or the fan itself doesn't get damaged, at least while I'm working on it. If it does still look good with it on there, I might leave it just for shipping purposes. Now obviously anything water cooled, as soon as it's done, I'm not going to immediately put it up for sale like the other ones I've done. While I'm working on another project, I'm going to basically kind of use this as my personal one for now, just so that I can, use it quite a bit and make sure everything's good with it before I go ahead and ship it off to somebody. And that's going to be true. Now, obviously, I do that with any of the systems, but with the water-cooled ones, I want to use it on and off for at least a week or so before I put it up for sale. But anyway, so that's probably going to cut it for this video. We got this one done, this one done. Before I start the part 8, which I plan to be the final part, I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out to the point where it'll fit over our pump and over here, and make sure we've got our spaces for where the tubing is. And then we'll start the next part with, I'll probably also use some goof off, I might have already said this, and just do a little light sanding on this so that it's getting ready for paint. And the next part will be actually painting this, and then, like I said, final assembly. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys like where this one's going, and yeah, I'll see you in the next part.